That was awesome.
Yeah.
Very well done. That was excellent. We're going to have to make everyone do that.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Welcome to the show. I'm here today with Matt Choi and Zach Zillner.
What's up, Matt? How are you?
I'm excellent, man. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. I mean,
Tim's over here sweating.
I'm sweating hard, dude. I don't know. I wish there was like a zoom in feature for this camera that's on me. Surely you can see how red I am right now. But I just ran a mile with Matt prior, not even 15 minutes.
Literally 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, to us. And actually, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I expected to feel much worse. Though I did tell you on the track, I couldn't decide if I needed to throw up or shit my pants on the last lap.
That's how you know you're doing it right.
Yeah. That's
Honestly, that's a good response. It's a good response.
Is that fair? Like the last mile of your marathon, are you wondering to yourself, what's going through your head?
Less of shitting myself, but there's, I mean, dude, every runner, you talk to enough runners and we've had moments, bro, I've seen some shit, not literally and figuratively. That's a good pun right there of what happens during a marathon. But like, even myself, like going on training runs, like, dude, sometimes you don't have enough time to go in the morning to get shut your system. And like, you're six miles into a run, you're like, dude, I gotta go.
This is now when it's happening.
I've done it on South Congress in like the middle of like trees before, like, dude, you learn how to be a quick shitter.
Honestly,
I really am.
Yeah. Forget the Rainy Street Ripper.
Yeah, this is the South Congress Ripper over here. So do you guys bring to like a poop bag, I guess, like dogs, or you just kind of
I mean, Zach, it's kind of like nature. I mean, it's one with nature kind of thing. I mean, you know, when I first got into the ultra marathon space, I started seeing it even more with like, I've seen women literally go to the bathroom standing up and just literally picking up their foot like a dog,
hiking a leg.
Yeah, literally. And then, I mean, dude, when you're deep into the woods and the next aid station or the next bathroom's 35 miles away, like you almost have no choice.
Yeah.
So during like an ultra, you'll bring like baby wipes or some type of like dude wipes in your actual pack. But on a marathon, it's less likely that you're gonna bring that stuff, but there's a lot more porta potties and things like that available. I've gotten a system now where like I've obviously ran a good amount of races where I understand my body. I'm able to go before, and if anything, I'll go to the bathroom like to take a piss during the race, if like 20-second break. But then again, there's been some races where I ran sub 3 hours and I still took a shit in between. And it was literally like, I found the porta potty at mile 12. I'm like, dude, I've been holding it for 3 miles. It goes out instantly, one wipe, and you just go. There's no like, honestly, you're already sweaty, you know?
You should get time taken off for just being that efficient and having to.
It's actually, people literally were like, yo, how did you run sub 3 and you took a bathroom break? I'm like, well, like, dude, I talked to Mark Bell about this, and it was like, when you build up in your system and it's kind of waiting to release, you're not lingering in the bathroom. Like, dude, my clock is still rolling.
It's time to go.
It's time to go. Like, I have this goal I want to achieve. It's like, I'm not going to linger, you know? So runners get after it in a lot of different ways.
Well, Tim, you didn't shit yourself. Let's go into his, can you break down because he's going to give me a different story.
Yeah.
Mile by mile, how Tim crushed it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, first, Tim wanted to get a 7:30, which I thought was very generous. I think, you know, sub 7 was a probably better goal, but 7:30 was comfortable. Still great. The first lap, Tim was still kind of talkative. I think in that mode of like not realizing what was about to endure over the next 6-7 minutes. We came at the first split at 1 minute and 40 seconds. So that's roughly like a 6:30 pace. And that's obviously really good. I mean, I think we started a little too fast. The second lap, we kind of evened out, and I think we came in around 3:40. So it was a little bit slower on the second lap. The third lap, we were kind of surviving.
Yeah.
And I think Tim was surviving. And then the fourth one, it's kind of where I always challenge people. I'm like, yo, this is the lap where like you just got to give it everything you got. Whether you have something left in the tank or you don't, just kind of grind through it. Like I always say, like 1% faster for every 100 meters on that last 4. And Tim crushed. I mean, we hit 6:50 on that last one. I'm sure walking away, Tim probably could have felt like he had wish he could have like opened up a little bit more.
No, but here's the thing, because I was thinking about it going around the last turn. I was like, I can send this and I can be on all fours and laying down on the track. And I made the conscious decision not to do that. I'm not even ashamed of saying that. I knew the state of my stomach. I would, first of all, the start time on this podcast, we wouldn't be talking.
Yeah, we were close.
I would be just getting to the building. And I was like, you know, whatever's happening, I'm already happier than what it would have been.
Totally.
I'll live to fight another day.
So we need part 2 then.
Exactly. I mean, look, 6:30. I think is. I mean, honestly, for
I
Sims,
owe you a
6
good
minutes.
back half of the last.
I think a sub 6 for you is very attainable with like a couple weeks of like 400 to 800 meter repeats.
I wouldn't mind layering that in anyway.
Yeah.
So look, we started the podcast hot from bathroom breaks to hiking legs, shitting our pants, not shitting our pants. For people who may not know who you are,
I'm sure a ton don't still.
can you give us your background, your athletic background, and then where you're at today?
Yeah. I mean, I played football my whole life. I played up until college up at Monmouth University, which is a 1AA school out in New Jersey. Football was my identity growing up. It's kind of where I was able to find a lot of peace and a lot of joy and, really getting the fruit of my labor in terms of like athletics. And as a kid, it's like everyone has that dream of I want to play professionally, or I don't want to just be like an engineer or a lawyer. It's like I actually want to lean into a passion project, and football was that for me.
What was your position?
I played receiver.
Nice.
I played quarterback in high school and then receiver in college. But that was my background as an athlete. I mean, I played sports my whole life growing up, soccer to start, because my mom, being an Asian single mother, didn't want me to play football. And she was willing to at least get us immersed into sports. And it's honestly where I found a lot of my male role models, just because I didn't have my dad in my life growing up. And not growing up, like my dad's been in my life, but not in the household, right?
Yes.
So it was an outlet for me to just really lean into sports. And having an older brother, which you got to officially meet today, we were super tight growing up, and sports was like that one thing that connected us to a different community, and also just external mentors and resources.
Totally.
But then, I mean, over the pandemic and past couple of years, I've leaned further into endurance running and endurance athletics. And a lot of that just came from losing my identity from football.
Yeah.
Working a corporate job right out of school and being like, damn, like I'm not really loving what I'm doing.
What were you doing?
I worked at this company called Shred It, which dealt with document destruction. My title was a manager in training. So I'd leaned into a ton of different jobs within this organization.
Okay.
So they had me do like the operational stuff. They had me do the literal blue collar work. And then we do management stuff, and they sales, and like they throw me into everything just so I had an understanding from like a full circle point of view of how the business operates. And I learned so much doing that, obviously, of working with people who had no degrees to then sitting with our like regional vice presidents a couple weeks later at the HQ in Chicago and being like, damn, I'm at the boardroom right now with every regional VP, but 2 weeks ago I was slaying
papers, baby.
literally with someone that didn't have a degree. So
what was your degree in college? What were you pursuing?
Business, marketing, and management.
Nice.
But I was pursuing just finishing college. It wasn't like I want to go do this thing after. Like for me, I was so caught up into just athletics that school was kind of secondary to me. I didn't really apply myself. And if there's one thing that's
relatable.
Yeah, I'm sure. And that's one thing I definitely regret. I wish I kind of leaned further and not even into school, but into other mentors that I could have learned entrepreneurial stuff earlier.
Yeah.
I could have learned different tactics that were happening. And that's something that with time, as you mature, you realize, and you change the patterns now, which is kind of what I've been able to do over the past couple of years.
You said something, and I talk about this all the time. And it's been such a potent, quite frankly, life-changing piece in my life, is having a mentor, having people in your life who are guideposts, who are willing to essentially take you in if you're willing to do the work and learn. And can you talk about what that's looked like for you in your life and how it's impacted you?
For sure. I think it's been a mixture of digital and in person. I think for a lot of people, if you live in Des Moines, Iowa, or you live in the middle of America, you might not have actual physical mentors that are doing the thing that you want to do.
Yeah.
And for me, when I was still working that corporate job, I didn't have those people that I was looking at like, damn, like I want to be like Zach, I want to be like Tim. Like, I didn't have those physical people in my actual environment. But I leaned into the devices, and I leaned into podcasts and books and other ways to really consume content.
Yeah.
And those mentors, and I call them like my board of advisors, even though some of them I've never even met. But guys like Gary Vaynerchuk, guys like Jesse Itzler, and like Naval Ravikant, people that I started to consume their content, it just became a part of my framework.
Yeah.
And guys like Hormozy and all these guys that like have turned themselves practically like a rags to riches story of like nothing to something. I just gravitated towards, because like being an immigrant, it's kind of like a similar framework of, I didn't have everything growing up. So it's like, I relate with someone that grew up in Queens and had 8 people living in their apartment. Like I relate to that, you know? As I further got into wellness and fitness, I started to like reach out and get a personal training certification with NASM. And during that time, I wanted to intern at a physical therapy practice because DPTs just know their shit.
Yeah.
And there was one that was local to me. His name's Dr. Josh Funk, and he built out a practice called Rehab to Perform in the DMV area, which they've scaled to like 10 locations.
Wow.
And he really crushed business. He understood the entrepreneur. He had a really big entrepreneurial spirit. And instantly, as I was studying to get a CPT, I was like, can I come work for you for free? And I would just go to the local practice and I would just go shadow all the DPTs. And that helped me understand as a trainer what it's like to come back from an injury.
Yeah.
What it's like, not just from the physical standpoint, but the mental, the psychological standpoint of why some people actually don't recover.
Yeah.
Because there's a mental block, or they don't actually want to go through the movement aspect of strengthening themselves. They just want the typical stem, or they want ice, like they want passive treatments instead of actual physical treatment.
Yeah.
And then locally there was a performance coach and a trainer out of Maryland. His name is Coach Plez, that I really leaned into. After about 8 weeks at the physical therapy practice, my buddy Josh was like, yo, it's time for you to go work with a trainer now, like a performance coach, because that's what you're going to be doing. So he kind of gave me the boot, like in a good way, was like, yo, you've done what you need to do.
Yeah.
You got your certification. Now go learn from someone who's doing what you want to do. Yeah. And then I shadowed my buddy Plez for months. And at first it was me helping him with content. And then I wanted
marketing
to just
degree.
Yeah, the marketing.
I wanted to add value everywhere I went. And for me, value comes in so many different ways, whether it's time, money, or your actual skill set. And in that moment, I didn't have money to give them, but I had time. I had a skill set when it came to understanding marketing and how to like leverage social. And at that time I had 1,500 followers.
Right.
So it wasn't like I actually had a proof of concept. I was just willing to report.
You're willing to do the work.
And then equally, he was like, damn, this kid's hustling. Yeah. He's showing up to my class after he already coached at Orange Theory in the morning. Side note, I worked at Orange Theory to get money.
Right.
So during that time, I'm like, oh, I'm working for free.
You got to float the boat somehow.
100%. I got to make some money. I was living at home at the time, and my mom was gracious enough to be like, hey, you want to follow your passion? Okay. Well, then humble yourself and do. And I was proving her that I was willing to do all the dirty work.
Yeah.
And I had an opportunity to work at Equinox and Orange Theory, but Equinox wanted me to work floor hours and do all this shit. I'm like, I don't want to sit at a gym and just have them own my time.
Yeah.
I didn't love the aspect of being a coach at Orange Theory. I'm like, damn, I'm coaching moms, and like it was just like a different demographic, but it helped me work with a different clientele.
Sure.
And have empathy and understanding that, these guys aren't athletes, and everyone's an athlete, period. Sure. But their goal is not performance.
Right.
It's longevity, it's sustainability. So I had to kind of mirror the training style and how I communicated to them, but it allowed me to be a contractor. I can go in and teach 4 classes, get paid for that, and then go do the things I wanted to do. And that was making content for my own brand and then going to work for all these other performance coaches. So it's a long-winded answer. I gave you guys a lot right there.
I think it's good because I think
that was fantastic.
So many people see, like, not that you're at the year-end product now, but like you've probably are higher in impact and everything than you've ever been in your career so far. And I think so many people get wrapped up and they just see where you're at now and don't realize early morning, late nights. Like, I know we like to romanticize the hustle and everything, but like that's truly what it is. There's plenty other Matt Choi's, I'm sure, in your situation that were just, I'm not going to work at Orange Theory. This guy's not paying me. I'm not going to help out. So that's just a true testament to you of like work over time gets you where you want to go.
It's not sexy. To your point, Zach, it's like, it's actually hard. I always tell people, I'm like, yo, like, of course, taking the humble piece of pie and working for free sucks. But those moments, those connections that you make because you're actually showing up and doing the thing that you want to do, and there's people around you that are helping to mentor you. There were so many moments of the people I met during those times of working for free that helped elevate me months later, but I could never have predicted that.
Yep.
And it's sometimes putting yourself into the room to just get lucky, where it's just the environment that dictates a lot of those things. Yeah. But a lot of people can't leave their ego at the door. They're like, I'm worth something. I should be getting paid right now.
Yeah.
But that instant gratification is typically what stops people from seeing the future of like what something could actually be in their own potential.
Well, it's you, like you put in the time. Like a lot of people think like, oh, if I just get the internship or shadow, like I'm putting in the time, but you have to crush it while you're there with that time. Cause like those mentors are so busy that if they see you that you're not fully checked in or 100% in or want to make this your life, like it's hard to pour into somebody that doesn't want it to that degree. So I think, you know, getting in the door is one thing, but it's like what you did with that is the reason why you're at where you're at now.
100%.
You
and I have very similar.
And,
have a lot. I didn't know any of this about you. Obviously, this is our first time sitting down in this capacity. But we have very similar paths. I kind of did the same thing where I got started in training and I latched on. I asked someone, I said, hey, I'll pick up your weights. I'll show up whenever you want me to. I'll do everything. I just want to learn from you. Will you please give me an opportunity? And from that, I was getting there 4 a.m., stay until, 4 a.m. train people. I'm like, who trains at 4:30 in the morning?
CEO.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's exactly. I was living in Houston. There's a lot of like, bigwig oil types. But he was gracious enough to say yes. And then, I was at a place, I was working, I was going to school after that and then working. So my whole day was just, from 4 a.m. till 8 p.m. But I was doing it because I felt compelled to do it because I really did want it so bad. And I was willing to do those things and humble myself. Though I don't know that I thought about it in that capacity at that time. But, you said something too, where it was like, there's no way you could have known what doing that would do for you later in life. And that's been my experience too. Every single time it's like a byproduct of the willingness to take a step like that and to take a leap of faith like that and to say I'm going for it. It creates a platform for awesome things to happen. Yeah. It's like you miss every shot you don't take.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
100%. I mean, it's as I've leaned even further, even in my own faith, and it's. I truly believe that it's not even by man. It's like it's something it's a higher power, and whatever someone believes in. For me, it's God. For someone else, it could be whatever. But like it's in those moments where when you're chasing after, when you have this level of delusional confidence and you're chasing after your thing.
Yeah,
it's almost like when you're investing enough time and you're sacrificing and you're doing these things that will lead into getting quote unquote lucky.
Yeah,
I feel like it's just God giving you this opportunity. It's like, hey, you've sacrificed enough. Yeah. And now I'm going to give you this. Whether you want to take it or not, it's entirely up to you, and you need to make a decision for yourself. Is this the right fit? Is that connection the right thing? Is it right to say yes or no? And you never really know until you actually say something. Yeah. Right? You have to like make the commitment to do it. And sometimes I made mistakes too, where I've like, oh, this looked like the right opportunity and it wasn't. And something that I really remember from my first conversation with Jeremy Hills was like, he told me, he's like, dude, you're going to be in a moment where you have to distinguish what's an opportunity and what's a distraction. And both of them are going to look very similar. You're not going to really understand what is the opportunity or what's the distraction, but it's not until you actually say yes to one of them that you then learn like, damn, I wasn't supposed to be here. Or equally, I am supposed to be here. This was the right move. This was the right thing to do. Like it was all those things. And I think for humans, it's learning by doing is 100%. My journey.
You have to be a doer.
You have to be a doer.
Analyze everything. And
I say it all the time.
Think about it. You just have to be
that exact motto all the time.
Yeah.
And of course I'm biased. I'm a high school dropout. I didn't make it. I've got 6 college credit hours. I spent my early 20s drinking and abusing drugs and alcohol and, just being a total disaster of a human. And then I got this opportunity later in life, and that was the only avenue. I had whittled away all my other options, and it had to be like, if I wanted to get to where I believed that I could go one day, I had to be willing to go to someone and say, let me learn from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had to.
So with training, we'll go back to training because I'm sure much people want to listen to that. With football, did you find yourself, did you like playing football more? Or did you like the actual training of football the best?
Like myself as an athlete?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of like people that somehow get in our positions, they find that they like the training a lot more than the actual game.
Yeah.
Was that something where you just like, I like balling, lifting weights is cool, but like I want to play on the field?
I mean, I think during the moment, obviously I loved getting on the field, but the work itself was never something that coaches had to drag me to do. Like when it came to the weight room, like I loved that. Like I loved winter conditioning. I loved the aspect of like progressing and like going through that delayed gratifying process of, hey, we're going to see what we can do in 12 weeks and how much stronger, faster, bigger can we get. I think especially as a receiver, you kind of get the note of like being a prima donna and not wanting to lift and like those things. But for me, like I wasn't our ex receiver, I wasn't our star guy. So I had to do a lot of the dirty work of having to block, being a possession guy, going across the middle. So for me, doing the dirty work, I never hated it. I started to realize that after school was done though, that I really did enjoy the process of it. And that was including film and all the stuff that like people don't really get to see when you don't play on Saturdays. Like it's the everything in between of Monday through Friday. And then on Sunday, when you go through walkthrough and prep, like the process of prepping was never a problem and something that I needed to get like motivated for. Like I was just understanding that like, dude, this is part of what you need to do. In addition to, I enjoyed it. So then when I started to train people, I was like, it was more implementing that mentality into a kid or a young athlete of like, hey, it's easy to just show up on the game and just think that you're going to get touchdowns and all those things. But if you don't prime yourself mentally and physically to get to that point to show up as your best self, then it's not going to really matter. And then that started to make me realize like school was also important. I was the kid that didn't care about school. Yeah. So then when I started to coach kids, I'm like, yo, this is something that you should learn from me. Like I didn't apply myself all as much as I could. And that made me vulnerable in certain areas of football and also out of it, that I was starting to almost mentor kids of that aspect of, you have to be multifaceted in life. When all your eggs are in one basket, then you leave yourself vulnerable if it doesn't pan out.
Yeah.
So football training, you leave. When's the first moment you pick up your camera and decide you're going to start recording?
That's a great question.
That's interesting. Like when does a light switch of like, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to take a video, post it, see what happens.
The first moment was after I read the book called Crushing It by Gary Vee, where he basically talks about the digital age and media is going to be the new form of leverage, and that the attention is starting to switch off the TV onto the devices and the social platforms.
Sure.
And after I read that book, I started realizing like, okay, well, like if I'm going to leave corporate and I'm going to go start getting into fitness, I started making videos before I ever got a certification because I was basically leveraging the skill sets I learned through college to train high school football athletes, right? It's like I wasn't training them how to lift in the gym. I was just going through drill work. And because I played quarterback in high school, I was able to throw as if I was like a high school level quarterback to kids that were getting ready for college or high school. So my understanding of offensive schematics when it came from footwork as a quarterback and then the actual like routes as a receiver was very one-in-one when it came to being able to throw routes on air and doing all those things. So at first, the content actually started immediately.
Okay.
As soon as I decided to get into fitness, I was like, I need to document my journey. Yeah. I need to showcase how someone could end up working with me because I didn't have money to run paid ads. I didn't have money to like be on billboards or be on TV. It's like, it was ludicrous. I was like, what's the best way? It's, Instagram is happening right now and TikTok was starting to make its way. And the content sucked. Like straight up. Like it just, I didn't know what I was really doing. I was just hitting record and just trying to push stuff out there. Yeah. At the time, a friend of mine that lived in Maryland was also kind of in and out of jobs, and he didn't like what he was doing working at a car shop. And I was like, dude, I'm not making money right now, but what I will tell you is that like, I'm learning as much as I can, and I'm gonna lean into content. And if you want to pick up a camera and help me start documenting some of this stuff, like I will help get you resources or get you in touch with as many people as I can that might help you build something as well. So my buddy Kevin Kim started to pick up a camera, and me and him just started getting to the field every single day. And I hit up all my former college buddies. AFL, XFL was happening at the time. So guys I played with, I was like, yo, let's go to the field. We'll do some drills. I'll prep you guys and just get I wanted to get content. Yeah. And we just started to make videos. And that's how everything started. I would just go onto the field and we would do like receiver drills, box drills. I would get guys through conditioning and just things I went through in college. And that was kind of the start.
Dude, I get so many people. I get the DM all the time. It's like, where do I start with social media? Or what are the steps I need to take to get where you're at? And a big shout out to David Gray. I asked him that same question probably, 3 years ago. And I was like, I don't know. I just don't know how to start. And he gave me one of the best pieces of advice that I've been able to apply over every aspect of life has been, you just got to start, and it's going to suck. And you're going to be bad at it, but you have to just start. Like, I'm someone, I can research something for a really long time and in theory come up with a way to make it go off as good as possible, right? Zach knows we started this podcast. Okay, he knows. I want to try and get it right the first time. I don't inherently enjoy uncertainty.
Yeah.
It makes me anxious. I lean on that side of the spectrum. The irony is that in order to get good at something or to get like to somewhere new, that step has to be taken. You just have to start. So hearing you say that and you being like, yeah, the content was shitty and it was shitty for a while.
Well, when you start, like, you should suck at something.
Right. And how arrogant. That's
like, I'm gonna crush it
that's my other
video.
problem is how arrogant do you have to be to assume that your content should be, and you know, some ignorance, some arrogance, like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, but after you suck at doing content for 3 to 4 months in a row, you start to get a real understanding of what actually goes into content that people are willing to consume and enjoy.
I think honestly, how arrogant are humans in general to think that they're going to pick up a skill set?
Yeah. It's like you just bought a
Right?
guitar today.
100%.
Come on.
There's no way you'd know how to play anything.
Period.
It's like watch one YouTube video, you're like, I suck, screw this. Like, that doesn't
Ludicrous.
happen. But people look at it with posting and everything. They're like, well, my first post, only 6 people liked it, and 3 of them were family members. And
Yeah.
Right.
2 others were bots.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess
like,
I'll just go ahead and quit now.
Yeah,
100%.
quit, be done.
and like I think it's and the reason I love content in my journey in running so far is that it's actually very practical and relatable to everything you guys just said. It's like I just picked up 2 different skill sets and was willing to go to the learning curve of not being good at it.
Yeah.
If I wanted to pick up the piano or something else as well, I would not be that good. But if I actually spent 20,000 hours doing the piano, rock climbing, fill in the blank, I would have gotten a little better. I might not have been a pro or an elite person at that thing, but people underestimate how much time it actually takes to just improve.
Oh,
Yeah.
And that
To be
level
marginally better.
just marginally, right? It's like, I'm not going to be an elite runner.
Yeah.
I won't be, most likely.
Yeah.
I will not ever touch Kipchoge's time, but I can get marginally better, bettering myself and improving what I can do as a human.
To you.
You to you, me to me, right? And I think that's always my message, especially to running. Like, I always tell people, are like, Matt, like, dude, you're so fast. I can never run with you. Like, I don't think people understand that, like, I'm not that fast, relatively speaking. Like, people look at me like, oh, he's 3 hour. That's slow as shit.
Yeah.
But it's all relative to whatever speed means to you and whatever strength means to you, right?
Yeah, an elite runner, you'd look at your times and be like, this guy's slow. Why are you listening to him?
Literally.
If you're an average Joe, you're like, 3 hours. Like,
It's impossible. 100%.
So I just ran my first marathon, and I'm
Congrats.
appreciate it. And I'm trying to get all my friends to do like an endurance activity. And
He's been on me already.
I love it.
the first, so by the time we're done, he's gonna commit. But you're 25 to away. But like the biggest thing I get is like,
I love that.
is like, well, Zach, I'm not a runner. And it's like, I'm not a runner either.
Period.
You weren't a runner either. Like most people who are runners, like in our category, like not elite, they probably weren't runners. So it's like you just do it and you get better at it. And then if you're going to run your first marathon, it doesn't need to be a sub 3 hour marathon. Like,
Just get it done.
No one thinks it will be. And so it's like, you just got to get it done. And I don't know. I think just these long endurance events where you give yourself enough time to quit or talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
And then through that race, at least for me, it's like, I feel good. I want to quit. I don't think about anything. I feel good. I want to quit. And then you finally finish. You're like, hell yeah, I
did it.
Let's freaking go.
Yeah.
But I think like, especially in like lifting weights and stuff, people think like lifting weights is hard. It's like, okay, well, if you put your max on, miss it, that's 1 second of your life. Who cares? But like something so long, it just gives you the opportunity to feel like you're going to quit and then tell yourself no and then keep going. Like
It's actually more like life.
Yeah,
Totally. I was thinking that the whole time he was saying that.
Yeah.
God,
it's actually like life.
Yeah.
And I think that's why like I've really gotten obsessed and gravitated towards it. And I mean, Zach, to your point of like, most people say like, I'm not a runner though. Like if you actually feel that and you understand that the words that we speak matter, like you fill that in with anything else.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a creator.
Yeah.
I'm not a podcaster. I'm not fill in the blank. Like most people live their life thinking like that. Once I got into running and actually like unlocked that internally, I started realizing that like if I actually put my time and energy into whatever I choose to, whatever my heart desires, I could do it.
Yep.
I might not be the best, but I can do it. And it actually gives you this level of enlightenment that nothing is impossible. And I think that's always been my thing of like why I love the endurance stuff so much is that you have time to reflect on these things and that you prove yourself wrong.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh, like today, you literally proved yourself wrong within a matter of 6 minutes and 50 seconds.
I did. That's an actual fact.
Right?
Yeah. I thought like, for sure I was going.
No ambulance was called.
None.
You didn't shit yourself?
I didn't shit myself or puke in front of all of those little kids. By the way, there was 3 soccer games
going on
between 5 and 9 years
what's
old
wrong with that
children. And Though I will say one of the moms made a wonderful comment to both of us. She said we were both very fast.
Ooh, see?
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly.
A couple of fast boys with their shirts off. Capturing some content. Thank you, soccer mom, whoever you are. I'm sure you'll be listening.
No, I think it's like earned confidence. So it's like you have to put yourself in a position to fail, to not fail, and then if you do, learn from it. But like get over that, and then you get that confidence. So I think people are always looking for, I'm not confident, low self-esteem. Well, it's like, well, you haven't done anything to really earn that confidence. You haven't pushed yourself outside your comfort zone to earn that confidence.
I heard someone say once, I'm so glad you just said that, and it's a principle that applies across a lot of those same concepts. It's like, well, I don't feel like I have, like, you get self-esteem by doing esteemable acts.
Ooh, yeah, it's
true. You
get
you become confident by stepping outside of yourself and accomplishing things that you didn't think you could do, like me running a 650 mile today instead of 730, which for me is fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, like those, it's like I want to be more confident, or I wish I was more outgoing, or those things, they don't happen by accident. And I think it circles back around to the theme that we've been talking about this whole time, where it's like you have to start. I have a mentor. He says the actions don't care why you take them. You will get the outcome. So in spite of how you feel, or in spite of your calculated perceived outcome, if you take the action and you take it often enough, you'll fail sometimes, but you're also going to, it's just statistics, baby. You're going to get some W's.
And if you're not failing, the goal probably wasn't hard enough anyways. Like if Tim, your goal to run the mile was 20 minutes, it's like,
it'd be ludicrous.
I'm not going to lie. I may have sandbagged it today a little bit. I mean, I'm just being honest, like and in fairness, I don't really have a good gauge.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, do I, but I thought to myself before I started, I sold myself short. I was like, 730 feels safe. I think I can say that on camera, and
it'll happen.
It'll happen. Yeah. And we obviously crushed that.
So sub 6 then.
Sub 6.
Sub 6 is next.
Sub 6.
Oh, God.
So speaking of not a runner, you obviously are a football player. What drew you to being, I guess, a distance endurance athlete?
Yeah, it was David Goggins. I read the book Can't Hurt Me, and it started to challenge my internal framework of what's discomfort? What is endurance? Like, this guy used to weigh 300 pounds and he was able to do this stuff. And I just got this interest to try. Mm-hmm. And it started with doing the Murph workout 30 days in a row during the pandemic.
You did it 30 days in a row?
In a row. And at the end of the month, I got 60 miles accumulated of a base. And that gave me a confidence. It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, but like, it's practical. It's somewhat
Can
practical.
you tell people at home who maybe don't know the Murph is?
The Murph is a Memorial Day CrossFit workout celebrated for Lieutenant Mike Murphy for Operation Red Wings. If you've never seen the movie Lone Survivor, go watch it. It's a hell of a movie. But it's a 1 mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and another mile. The CrossFitters do it with a 20-pound weighted vest.
Wow.
I progressively overloaded it with 2 weeks of body weight, 1 week with a 10-pounder, and then another week with a 20-pounder.
Look at that, coach.
Yeah. And it was just like practical for me to be like, I don't want to just load 20 extra pounds on my body and my joints when I haven't ran.
Yeah.
But the 1 mile prior and the 1 mile after, it gave me this level of confidence. Like, damn, like, okay, I can do this. I can run 2 miles. Clearly, I'm proving it to myself.
Yeah.
And then from there, after the 30 days was done, I just put on my Instagram to my 2,200 followers at the time, how many miles should I go run? And I was like, 2 miles, 3 miles, 4+ miles, 5, like, and everyone was like, go 4+ miles. And then that day I did 5.5 miles or something like that.
Wow.
And that just gave me this awakening, like, oh, like I survived.
Yeah.
I didn't die. I didn't shit myself. I didn't throw up. And it just gave me this confidence, like, all right, let me go see what I could do the next week. And I'm a big Hormozi guy, and his quote of like, you don't build confidence by shouting affirmations at the mirror, but by building an undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are. For me,
Earned confidence, baby.
earned confidence.
It's better than my quote.
It's everything you guys said. Shout out to Hormozi.
Shout out Hormozi.
But like that, for those bricks were my confidence of like, oh, I did the Murph. I could do 60 miles in a month. Okay, I can go run 5.5 miles. And I just kept layering these bricks slowly. At the same time, I was also getting injured and dealing with stuff that quote unquote failing because I'm doing stuff that I don't really know.
Yeah.
I'm just literally reading resources online and reading Steve Magnus and just like getting as much knowledge about running as I can. But it wasn't this linear path. There was ups and downs as well, but it was just that confidence of laying down the foundation. And now because my foundation is built by bricks, even when I get swayed in other ways, it doesn't fall because I understand what I can do.
Yeah.
So like my baseline now is so strong that when someone's like, yo, I can't imagine doing that. But if you understand what I did to lay this foundation, then you actually could.
Yeah.
So you're telling me throughout your training, Matt Choi did have some bad days.
I mean, Zach, too many to count.
So what did you do? Like, obviously you get frustrated. I know with running, like it's really easy to get into a groove. And then one day it's like my Achilles hurts or my hip flexor hurts. Like what are different things that first happened to you injury wise? And then what'd you do to help, mitigate those?
Yeah. I mean, the first real thing that happened was shin splints.
Yeah.
Classic.
You're gonna be hurting tomorrow.
Yeah.
Listen,
For a new runner that doesn't understand what it means to have easy runs versus tempo days versus running hard, running fast. Like that was my biggest thing, is that every single run I did was a negative split. I would start, and if you don't know what negative split is, it just means that you're getting faster with every mile.
Got it.
So I would start really slow the first one, and my goal is like, I need to get faster. I need to improve my speed.
I'm gonna beat what I did last time every time.
Exactly.
It makes sense though. Like if I want to be fast, I need to run fast. But this was my hardest thing to understand, is what an easy run was.
100%.
I would send back my times to my buddy and I'd be like, oh, it was 8:30. And he's like, dude, I run like 6-minute splits for the marathon, and that's not even my easy run. It's way higher. And I was like, oh, well, and then would get hurt. 100%. And so I think the biggest thing is like the discipline probably within that too. So when did that finally click that you're like, all right, well, I can't be running negative splits and ripping it up around the lake every day?
It really hit me when I first hired a coach.
Okay.
And I understood that, like, why am I always dealing with like some form of like a small like stress response, right? Whether it's shin splints or plantar fasciitis, those were the two that I dealt with the most.
And brutal.
It's like such a chronic pain that like nothing is actually fractured or broken, but like how debilitating it is.
Yes.
It makes it very discouraging to continue to run. So it was when I first hired a coach that I then realized I kind of explained to him, I'm like, hey, when I first moved to Austin is when I actually hired a coach, because I wanted sub 3 really bad, and I hit 305 in Austin 2 years ago, and I was close, but I'm like, something wasn't there for me to keep my paces at the end of the race. And I started to explain to him like how I was training. And he was like, well, it makes sense. Like your body has no time to recover. Like the point of easy runs and recovery runs is that even though you're accumulating a mileage in your base, you're not running fast enough for your tissues to actually be like fully stressed.
Yeah.
So it gives yourself the volume, but you're not actually tearing too many muscle fibers.
Yes.
And that I was like, I guess it makes sense. I'm like, I'm running fast every day. I'm like, yeah, it's like I should probably take
you're maxing out every day.
Exactly.
Like in weights terms, it makes sense, but I just couldn't get it through my big dumb head that like running's the same.
More means more. Must do more. Must move more faster. Yes.
You gotta have high days, low days, everything like that. So you're kind of at your career where you're running a little faster. Let's talk about how training has changed from like when you first hired a coach to now, like some of the double threshold workouts you're doing and everything like that.
Yeah, now it's obviously I have like a pretty good understanding of how my body can operate, like what weekly like volume looks like for me, and like what I can maintain in terms of staying healthy, getting into the gym, like doing Pilates and yoga and all these things. But I'm always curious about different ways to train, because for me, I'm like, it's putting me back into being a student.
Yeah.
The reason I like coaches and having people that know more than me is because I was a poor student, and now I'm really trying to develop that muscle. And in this aspect, it's getting people that understand running and endurance and how to actually improve performance. So like the past 5 weeks, I was working with my buddy Jonah, and we did a bunch of double threshold stuff, which is basically 2 speed workouts in the same day. But your threshold, you're not running at the peak of your threshold. You're working at the lower part of it. So I'm always willing to test stuff on myself and then share it online, because for me, it's about documenting the journey. And whether I succeed or not, like I wanted to hit sub 3 at Austin this year and I hit 3:03. So it wasn't like a failure. It wasn't a success. It was just, hey, I'm going to attempt it. I'm going to try something new and see what happens. In terms of the double threshold itself, I was just curious of, what will that look like and how much can that improve my performance in a short training block? Because I only prepped for Austin for like a 4-week block. So it wasn't like 12-week program that I built to go into Austin. I've run a lot of races and marathons, so it doesn't give me that much time to go through a full training block.
Yeah. So
I wanted to just see in a 4 to 5 week span what double threshold could do. And honestly, talking to Jonah, I'm like, I'm very happy with the performance of it. Like, because 2 weeks ago I pulled my back power cleaning, so I couldn't even run 2 weeks going into the race.
I remember seeing
right.
That.
I mean, you saw me when I was hurt,
dude. You were jacked.
I mean, dude, I couldn't walk.
He and Matt and I share the same physio, Cairo, and he's just incredible. And he had posted to his social, and it was Matt attempting to lay down on the massage table, and I knew immediately, bro. If you have fucked your back up that bad before, you know exactly what I'm talking about and what it looks like, and the look Matt had on his face, and I was like, oh, this dude is hurting right now.
Still ran it though.
Still ran it, bro.
Yeah. And shout out to Colin. I mean, it's like I think it's the mixture.
We got to get him on the show.
Yeah, you definitely need to. But yeah, it's like the mixture. I asked Colin, I'm like, yo, what are your thoughts on like, this type of recovery and like being able to come back and obviously even execute the race? And he's like, dude, there's so many variables when it comes to stuff like this. He's like, your lifestyle like is very conducive to treat your body throughout the day. Like I'm not having to sit at a desk 9 to 5. Like most of those times, Tim, like I was literally on the floor. Like my entire day, my entire focus was rehabbing to make sure that I can run in 12 days.
Yeah.
Most people, if you work a full-time job, like that's not conducive to your actual like lifestyle to make a living.
Can't do it.
I'm fortunate enough where like my priority for those 12 days was I was putting work to the side. I was like, my only goal
run this marathon.
is to run this marathon. I was seeing Colin 1 to 2 times a day.
Yes.
All the exercises and mobility stuff he had me do. I was doing so many cat-cows and mobilizing the spine. Like my entire schedule was built around me focusing on my back, and I was making so much progression while also keeping a positive mindset and not creating external stresses that also I felt like helped me.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many ingredients that he was like, dude, it's hard to say. It's not just this one exercise. It's not just the dry needling. It's like, it's all of these ingredients together. It's the people that are relying on you, the people that are rooting you, like Elise and the people down south were like, Matt, how are you doing? Like they were invested in me getting better. Like it's all these ingredients of people that were bought into me improving that also got me to that start line. So Colin was a major help, obviously, and I mean, I was beyond happy with the performance at Austin. I mean, it's a hard course, and I still hit a personal best by 2 minutes after not being able to walk 2 weeks prior. I mean, it's huge.
That's pretty sweet. I can vouch for plenty of hills on that course.
Plenty.
They do not tell you about those.
They do not.
Like it's another one.
It's rolling. It's honestly one of the hardest marathons I've ran, really? Course-wise, the course.
Which it's in your backyard would be a good first one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to nerd out on training some more. So can we go through like a kind of a sample week of somebody who, can't devote 40 hours a week to training, and then someone who, like, let's say you have a great situation where, your job schedule, ideal situation, how would you set up your week?
So like how I would recommend for someone to train for a marathon?
Yeah. Like
if they didn't have as much time.
Yeah, they're a normal person. They go to work. They can run 3 to 5 times a week. How would you kind of layer like weightlifting, easy runs, your sprint workouts?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I think if you have 3 to 4 days to run, let's say, one day should be on the weekend, should be a long run, right? So you kind of like bang that out Saturday or Sunday. Ideally, if you can spend 90 minutes to 2 hours dedicated for a long run, that's a win, which you will be progressively overloading week to week, with probably the third or fourth week being a deload, and then you kind of progress from there. One day should be a speed workout, a tempo run, some form of speed work. That's probably the one piece that a lot of people don't do, and it makes it harder for them to actually improve their times for the actual marathon. And speed work could be 800-meter repeats. It could be a fartlek run, which is speed play. So it could be 2 minutes fast, 2 minutes slow, and you're doing that for 8 rounds. So you don't have to be on a track if you don't have access to one, but doing some form of speed work once a week would be important. So those are 2 days. The other 2 days, I would say, should be your base building, your easy miles. You're just accumulating volume so that your legs and your feet are understanding that, hey, like we're going to be running 30 miles a week, 25 miles a week, whatever it is. And then if someone can get into the gym or just do body weight stuff. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused. They're like, oh my God, I don't have access to all the equipment, all this stuff. Like at the bare minimum, if you have dumbbells or if you have no weight, squatting, lunging, hinging, plyometrics, pogo hops, single leg pogos, seated calf raises. If you just do that and some core work, like that's enough. It's more than what most runners do. Yeah. Most runners don't do anything.
Well, I wanted to tease that out because moving to Austin, I was working over at Lifetime on Breaker, and it's got a lake and a trail there. And so the endurance community really gravitates towards that location. It's an incredible gym. But I'd never worked with that population of athletes prior to me being there, not really. So I learned a lot. And one thing I learned is there was a lot of resistance from endurance athletes, whether it was, triathletes or just runners, to weight training at all.
Yeah.
And it was confusing to me. I didn't realize that was like a thing. It is. But of course, everyone that I had the opportunity to work with, there wasn't a single person who didn't improve markedly by going from not lifting to doing just something. Can you dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just there's a level of resistance because I feel like an old school runner mindset is like, why add a day of cross training if I can just have that be another day of running?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like that. It's like perfect the thing that you're doing.
It's more specificity. It makes sense.
100%.
In the long term, I mean,
it leads to injuries. It leads to things like, okay, well, if you can't do that, then like what else can you resort to? The good thing with the tri and the Ironman population is that they have to cross train so many specialties from biking, running, and swimming that like that's a lot of cross training between there. And then to add in another day of lifting, it's just so much time.
Yes.
So with tri people, it makes a little more sense of them to just, all right,
something's got to go.
Yeah, something's got to go.
And if something is going to go,
it's going to probably be lifting.
It's going to be the lift.
But if you're just running and that's the only thing you're doing, like finding time to get into the gym and to like put on some strength, and it's been proven. There's so much science now that like strength in the sense of running, it does help. Yeah. Kipchoge does lift. He doesn't put on crazy weight,
right?
But he has a lot of core, lower leg stability, single leg stuff that they're doing. And he has plenty of videos online that they do stuff. A lot of stuff with mini bands, a lot of small muscles that you don't necessarily get when you just run because it's this one forward plane of motion. Like it's important to get your body and differentiate the movements that you do. So I would say for the person like that has the 3 to 4 days, like get into the gym 1 to 2 days. And to the simple movements that I was saying, like if you just do that, you'll already see some improvement. And then you can start to add in like isometrics, which are just pauses, right? So holding the lunge position, holding a squat with maybe some weight. And those things can over time build up some tissue tolerance and some strength that will improve your running. But yeah, I think that would be like probably the bare minimum. And then obviously you can, I mean, with social and online stuff, there's so many resources.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There's almost no excuse. It's just people being closed-minded.
So for your preferences, like, do you pick either lifting before or after? Do you pair up certain days where you lift before you run or after you run, or prioritize lower body or upper body, or like how do you go about if you're trying to run, that sub 3?
Yeah. So for me, running always is a morning activity for me. So I never combine running with lifting. So I'll always run in the morning, and then I'm going through my typical routine, getting probably 2 feeding windows before I start to lift. And now Trey Hardy's kind of set up a lot of my like S&C stuff where it's a lot of it is around durability. A lot of it is around plyometrics and then some compound movements.
Yeah.
My evening stuff, a lot of it is full body though.
Yeah.
And I always told Trey, I'm like, yo, my one goal when I got into running was I don't want to look like a marathoner.
Yeah.
So I want
guns,
I want to still lift. Like I want to like load the upper body. Like I want to like lift legs as well. And he's like, all right, perfect. And obviously you guys know Trey, like he's got a tremendous understanding of his decathlete background, but also how that translates into athletes in general. So in the evenings, we go through a full mobility prep, which in its own right is a whole freaking workout.
It is a workout.
That alone is its own thing.
Trey does that whole prehab mobility stuff.
It's insane, Tim.
With our dude, it's nuts with our NFL offseason and pre-draft, combine pro day guys, and it's a 45-minute process.
Well, the older you get, and I feel like running really makes me feel old after a long run or whatever, but like the older you get, like the more you have to do that stuff.
Yes, you do, dude.
If you want longevity. If you don't want longevity, don't do it, because you're gonna get hurt all the time. But like
it adds
that's
up,
the
though.
stuff you have to do.
Yeah, so like the movement prep, like when he first took me through all of it, I was like in a full-on sweat just doing that, right?
Yeah.
And so much of it is firing every single knob in the body that you can, from the lower to the upper, like every single piece. So that always preps me for the next segments of the workouts. And I think we have a split right now where one is a full body day where we'll do a complex prior to power cleaning, and then I'll get into a bench. The next day is a leg day focus where we do hang snatches, and then we do front squats and then deadlifts. And then the third day is hang cleans with dumbbell pressing.
Yeah.
So those are kind of, it's always a full body workout. And I always walk away where I told Trey, I'm like, the good thing is like, I'm not walking from these lifts like broken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? It's just firing. It's giving me a stimulus.
Yep.
But it's not breaking me off where I go on the next run and I'm like, dude, I'm so sore.
Yeah.
And he was like, that's the point. It's like, I want to just introduce this to your body. I want to introduce it to the muscles without it interfering the running.
Yeah.
If I get into an off season where he was like, hey Matt, like if you're going off season now and you want to flip it and do 4 to 5 days of lifting and then 3 days of running, we'll obviously load it more and we'll actually progress it until you get into some maxes. But because my priority is running, the lifting is just supplementing it.
Yep.
And then for me, it's like getting into Banks's class and doing Pilates once a week, which humbles me every single time.
It's brutal.
And Pilates is like, it's so great for runners because it's a form of physical therapy. It's a form of working and pulsating small muscles that I truthfully will say that has helped me tremendously to stay healthy, is mixing in that and yoga. So that's kind of my split. It's like 5 to 6 days of running, 3 days of strength, 1 day of Pilates yoga, and then other days where I'm just relaxing.
You know what I'm hearing? The overlay that I'm seeing is that you're doing an incredible job of getting a lot of movement variety. Like you really are, between those different modalities, the lifting and the running.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, but that variety gives you a lot of movement options, I would assume, and probably protects or prevents you from having maybe more frequent soft tissue or little flare-ups, just the little things that happen from inherently come from being an endurance athlete who's running in a straight line all the time.
100%. And I think it's been intentional because, I mean, coming from football, like you already have a lot of movement variety.
Yeah.
And then it was, okay, well, like, what does that look like if I'm running? I then started to when I read the first book, Born to Run, it always talked about how, like, even just getting out of your shoes, being barefoot, how much that helps building foot strength.
Yeah.
Once I unlock that, then I'm like, all right, well, like, I want to be able to run, but also be able to lift and then be able to sit in a yoga class and then do Pilates. I want to be able to be very movement friendly where I can do anything I want realistically and being very functional in it. So it's definitely helped. And I think it's something that I talked to Colin about after I ran across Korea. I dealt with a small
time out, pause. Let's talk about that real quick. Hold on, hold on. Time out, because you said that very casually. I back up a little bit. So you ran across the country.
Yeah,
South Korea. Yes. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it was one of the most enjoyable experiences, even outside of the running, just me culturally being able to go back to where my parents and my grandparents grew up. Me and my brother hadn't been back there since I was 7 years old, so 21 years ago.
Whoa.
So it was a complete culture shock. I mean, I barely remember what it was like when I was there when I was 7. And to then go back at this age and understanding how far Korea has innovated in terms of technology, how much in pop culture they become relevant when it comes to music, to film, to so many things where like they've really gotten, like they've blown up in a sense.
Yeah. It's a destination.
It's a destination now. Like everyone wants to go to Tokyo. And people still want to go to Tokyo, but Seoul being right there is a place that people want to go visit, and especially a lot of foreigners. So for me to again go see that, it was such a memorable trip. I had first heard about this trail called the Four Rivers, which is the trail that I ended up running. And it covers almost the entire length of Korea. I mean, we didn't start at the border of North and South Korea. We started in Seoul, which is the big city.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, I listen.
So it's almost the length of Korea.
Right, yeah. Can't say anyone blames you for that. Yeah, well, that valid.
Yeah, so I had first heard about this trail. It goes from Seoul to Busan, which is basically coast to coast. And my buddy Gunnar Rogers told me about it, and he was like, dude, check this thing out. And I started doing some research. This was a year and a half ago. And when I first moved to Austin, I just started doing some recon. It's a bike path. It's very commonly biked because obviously as you're biking, it's a lot friendlier on your joints than running. You cover a course of 300 miles. And depending on the course, you can make it shorter or you can make it longer. And I just started to do some research of like, all right, well, like how many people have ever ran it? There's been some people that have ran it, but not many people have documented. Not many are Korean American where they don't really live there. They're coming there to seek this challenge.
Right.
So for me, it was like a cultural homecoming.
Totally.
And I wanted to selfishly just do it because I wanted to see what it was like. I wanted to run through the rural parts of Korea where they're growing agricultural and cabbage and peppers and all these things. And when you run on foot, I always say this even when I've traveled in America, like it's one of the best ways to see a new city.
Yeah.
Right? You go on foot, you go on a bike, like you can go venture off in places that cars can't get.
Yeah, what a way to like immerse yourself
Period.
in that country, like
Period.
the whole time.
And even though like I definitely learned a lot more Korean while I was there. I can understand Korean a lot better than I can speak it. But to your point, Zach, it's like when you get immersed into it, you have no choice.
Yeah.
Like you're throwing yourself into the environment of failing, of not knowing, of like stepping into the unknown and the uncertainty of how people are going to respond or how much love or grace or hate they're going to give to you. And in those moments, there were so many beautiful spots that it's just like the interactions with the coffee shop owner, the interactions with the restaurant that we ate with, and like people being amazed at like what we were doing.
Yeah.
And the crew that we had was me and my brother, 2 Korean Americans, a friend of mine, my videographer who was Moroccan, long hair, curly hair with a beard, and then our driver who I befriended when I got there 2 days prior, which is a whole nother story. He was a UK dude, white dude, spoke the best Korean.
Whoa, that's wild.
Yo,
have you seen those videos online? There's this white guy, like so white. He goes
so
to
many
China
languages.
and he's like, starts talking in English.
And people are
and then
shocked.
they're like talking, and then he gives the answer back in like perfect Chinese, and everyone's like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Everybody's similar.
It was like that. His name's Felix. He previously biked the same path the year prior. So it was such a blessing to have him understand it. But he has a Korean girlfriend and has immersed into the culture of Korea, like speaks it well. Like he truly helped us make this trip so much more enjoyable.
God.
And it was a perfect piece to the team. And it was a 4-person team. We had a minivan and we made pit stops along the way at each city. And we would pit stop and sleep at a hotel and get local food. And like, it was an amazing trip, man. I mean, the run itself.
Trip of a lifetime, man.
Dude, it's something that I will never forget.
Wow.
I mean, the running itself obviously was physically demanding. It required a lot of energy and time and physical like effort. But even more so than that, man, like the cultural aspect of it was something that was so meaningful for me and something that my brother and I got to experience together, which is so dope. But yeah, something that it's a lifelong, it's a core memory.
Yeah, that's not something you just do on a Sunday or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, dude, I've ran in some of the biggest marathons in the world. People cheering me on and being able to captivate a community at all these spots. But something about being back in your homeland and like building that community up, it was something really special. And the aspect that no one was really cheering, it's truly what I enjoyed. Because it was a level of solitude, it's quiet time. And it's when I first got into ultra, like, and before people really followed me, like I did it because I selfishly wanted to test myself. I wanted to lean into the unknown and see, can I do this? And in Korea, it was so much of that. Like most people don't follow me in Korea, really. Yeah. So my community there is not as big as it is in America. And I thoroughly enjoyed that aspect of a week and a half before going, I was at the New York City Marathon, the mecca of marathons, 60,000 runners. I mean, millions of people cheering you on. And then I go to Korea 2 weeks later and
it's cheering you.
No one.
Felix.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So let's go over like mileage per day and all that stuff. And then I want to know like your favorite places that you stopped and then some of the best like post-run meals.
I love it.
I feel like the food, I was watching some of it, I was like, damn, these food spots are legit.
It's legit.
Yeah.
So it was 300 miles over 10 days. So average, it was about 30 miles a day. The shortest day was 20 miles. The longest day was 45 miles. Shoot. So just depending on the distance in the next town that we're going into, it was average about 30 miles a day. My favorite city, I think it actually was Busan, which was the last city that we stopped at. It was very, if I compare Seoul being like New York, Busan, which is the very bottom of Korea, is kind of like San Francisco. It's very more Bay Area. You're near the water. People are a lot more chill. That energy, it's like the West Coast vibe of people being a lot like, they're nicer, they're kinder, they're just more relaxed.
Yeah.
People in Seoul could be like kind of uptight, and it's like New York. It's like everyone's hustling. It's bustling.
I
It's
got
like
somewhere to be.
yeah, and like it's like a status thing of like, oh, where you live, what car you drive, all the things, you know?
yeah.
You're like, I'm running.
Exactly. It's like, yeah.
I got a van down by
I got a
the river,
van.
and I'm running.
But yeah, Busan was really beautiful, and you know, even some of the smaller towns, like it makes you appreciate how some of these small towns still operate, because they don't have all the technology, they don't have the innovation, like they don't have all those things, but it's people are content.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said about that. It's like, I think in a world, especially in America, where everyone wants the next thing, they want the next thing, to the status profile, all those things, where you see people that they're enjoying what they have.
Yeah.
And I think it opened up my heart of just like not needing a lot, you know? And I think I've always been a kid, because growing up with a single mom, like I didn't get all the stuff. So it's like, I started to appreciate even more of like just being simple and being minimalist and not needing a lot of things. And I think with running especially, it's like most runners are type A. They have to have every single thing perfectly planned out.
So true.
For me, I don't operate like that. I'm just like, oh, I don't have the gel. It's like, okay, I don't have the shoes. They're not broken in. It's okay, we'll figure it out.
Yep.
Like I just operate at this like kind of very easygoing attitude. And I think it helped me in Korea, because there were so many variables that were outside of my control. Like I couldn't dictate every single thing that we did.
Yep.
The food options were different every single spot. Like we couldn't get all the snacks or the electrolytes or the gels. Like you have to just operate with whatever you can get.
Yeah.
So I think that was those are some of my favorite spots in terms of food. By far, it's a comfort food. It's called jjajangmyeon. It's black bean noodles. Very good for runners because it's carbohydrate high.
A lot of calories.
A lot of calories.
Let's go.
But it's a noodle dish. It's very cheap. It's really just comfort food. It's a hot noodles. It's not in a broth though. It's very savory. The black beans itself have some meat in it, some veggies, some onions,
man.
and you mix it all up and it gets into being like black noodles. It's a very cheap food to make. And you eat this with fried dumplings, and this thing, it's called tangsuok,
Maybe
which is fried pork. Ooh. And you mix it in with this sweet and sour glaze sauce that has like carrots and pineapples in it, and you dip it in with some soy sauce, and you eat.
I'm so hungry,
bro.
Are there any places in Austin, Korean spots you found that are like halfway decent?
There's some halfway decent spots. Yeah. There's a spot called Korea House. We'll all have to go.
Okay. Done.
Korea House. It's a pretty well known spot. They have a old Korean grandma that works there. She's very like old school. She's dope.
Let's go.
And then even if you go to H Mart, like up north a little bit, like you go to their food court and it's like solid.
Yeah.
Like it's not the top tier, but like, dude, sometimes I just drive up north and I pick up some kimchi and I pick up some Korean, like Asian stuff at the market, and I'll just go sit at the food court and like whether it's me and my brother or sometimes just go by myself. I'm like, yo, like I'll just go eat at the food court, and like you can pick up these dishes there. And it's not like top tier, but like, dude, it gets the fixes.
Gets the job done.
Yeah, it's not running across, South Korea.
Dude, of course.
Earn your food.
But
of course. It
still
gets the job done.
That's right.
Beyond.
What are some big takeaways you took? You finish running across Korea, you come back to Austin. What are some different things you learned from the trip, and then different things you apply to your life now?
I'll say this short story, and this truly changed the landscape of how I thought about running and everything that I'm doing and what I will do in the future. My buddy, his name is Sean Rowe. He's a former rapper in Korea. Him and his partner, their name is called, it's Jinu Sean, and they were really popular in the 90s and early 2000s. They kind of fizzled in the sense of like their fame. They were really early to K-pop. Like it wasn't even K-pop, it was K-rap culture.
Wow.
So everyone understands like BTS and Blackpink, like these are major groups that have entered into the Western culture that like literally Americans love. They listen to more than I do.
Worldwide.
They're worldwide.
Yeah.
My buddy Sean, he's older now. He's 45, so he's got some years on me, and he knew I was coming to Korea because of his son. His son follows me.
Wow.
That's cool.
His son told him, he said, basically, Dad, like you need to go, like my buddy, this dude I follow, Matt, is coming to Korea and he's running the length of Korea. And this dude, Sean, he DMs me And Sean doesn't follow anyone on Instagram. His follower count, he follows 0 people. So I get a DM and he's got like 500,000 followers.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's
Gotta be a bot.
I'm like, literally,
Yeah.
dude, Zach, I was like, who is this
trap.
guy?
Yeah.
I don't know him. I don't know the culture of what he's done in Korea.
Yeah.
But he's a public figure in Korea. One, for his rapping. That's how he was known first.
Yeah.
And then he's gotten into a lot of philanthropic stuff.
Okay.
But he messaged me he's like, Matt, like I know you're running across Korea. I'd love to meet you and I'd love to connect, but prior to you going. And in my mind, I'm like I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, okay, like sure. Like I'd love to meet anyone. And the first day I go to like a shakeout run that I held like on a Saturday prior to running on Sunday, and just to meet some locals. We did it with a run club just so I could meet some local Koreans and just build the community there. And Sean actually came to that run, but he couldn't make it because he had his own event. So he came and popped in just to like say what's up. The next day he was like, yo, I'd love to come by and get coffee before you start. And we started at like 10 o'clock. So he came to the hotel. I was at like 9. He brought me 2 of his vinyl records and he brought his son, and like I got a chance to meet him. And I asked him, I said, Sean, I was like, why'd you reach out? Like, how do we get connected? He said,
Right.
My son follows you.
Power of social media.
And I was amazed. And he started telling me more about his story. In that moment, I learned so much about him.
Yeah.
You know, formerly he built his career off rap. Then he's gotten big into endurance. And recently in 2018, he built a children's hospital for disability. Because in Korea, there's a really bad stigma. If your kid has disability, like as a parent, you're looked at like as a failure. And there's not many resources for kids with disabilities for them to do rehab and to have them a facility to train out of.
Wow.
So Sean, starting in 2012, because he ran this marathon and he saw this kid, his father was pushing him for the entire marathon, and it inspired him to basically start raising money for kids with disability. Wow. So over the course of 5 years, 2012 to 2017, he raised $40 million to build that hospital
To fund
in
a
2018.
hospital build.
100%.
What are we doing?
Oh my goodness.
The goal was 30 million. He got 20 million through small donations over 5 years.
Wow.
$1 donations, $5 donations, and every single race or event he would do, he would Sharpie in the people that donated money.
Sweet.
The other 20 million was from an esports company. I say all this to say, like, one of my biggest takeaways from leaving Korea was like utilizing my platform in a way that's so much bigger than me. And I think that's something that's been challenging my heart internally of like, all right, like I've done a great job of building brand. I will continue to do that. And at the end of the day, I need to make ends meet for myself to then be able to do these things.
Yep.
And I think that was my takeaway. It's like, all right, he's got 17 years on me. I can go into so many stories of how he showed me love and grace without ever needing to. And one of the last days I was in Korea, he brought me to the hospital, and he brought me to the wall where it had all of the donations and the people that donated and all of his races that he ever ran to then raise the money. And I was just so inspired by the impact he was making. Literally, we were going into the hospital and we were on the elevator. He said, guys, I'm more popular here than BTS. And he was not saying that to brag, but one, to say and to show his own humility of like the impact he's making to these people that most people would look at and be like, I'm not going to spend time to help a kid with a disability. Like I'd rather go make $1 billion with a company or raise with a VC fund or something. Like he was doing like godly work.
Yeah.
And all these people, from the people that worked at the hospital to the kids to the families that knew that this guy sacrificed his own body for the betterment of people he didn't even know.
Yeah.
People that didn't really he had no literal connection to. His kids are healthy. He could have all these funds going to his kids' college funds,
right,
to selfishly raising money for his own family. But like he's literally spending time and energy from his own physical body to raise money for something way bigger than him.
Yeah.
And I walked away, and this guy was, I was inspired to leave something bigger than just my own name. And I think when I'm thinking about what I want to do in the future, so much of it revolves around using my platform as a megaphone for people that might not have that. And when I was in New York City, I got to run with a charity and run with someone that has autism and run with her the entire race. And it brought me way more joy than running sub 3.
Yep.
Like something about getting someone else to achieve a goal that they think is impossible, and to give them an opportunity to show their light and to give them a voice because they might not have it, is I think where I'm trending now in terms of what I want to do in the future. And it might not look like the $40 million hospital in the current day,
yeah,
but moving the needle on what that looks like for my own philanthropic stuff that I want to lean into over the next 5 to 10 years is, I think, the biggest takeaway that I got leaving Korea. And Sean had a major role in just showing me that.
Well, it
you know?
sounds like to me like the goalpost move for you.
For sure.
Like you, and I do want to talk to you about how you've built your brand and built your platform and built community, because I've seen it firsthand. But you know, without you having done those things and putting yourself in a position to run across South Korea, you don't get that opportunity to have this absolutely out of otherworldly experience. And now suddenly the mind shifts, and it's just like, you know, there's something next, but now you've got some clarity around what that next is, at least on a, you know what it means to you, like what it's going to look like in the future. That's powerful.
100%. I mean, I think you know, what's funny is like in that moment, guys, like when I was with him in the hospital, it was never a moment of like, oh, I'm not doing enough or I'm not worthy or any of those things. It lit the heart. Like my heart was just lit because I know that I have the heart and the ambition to do it. To want to do it. Like I'd rather be about something like that than just making a ton of money as a creator or building a big business just to have money.
That's what really moves the needle if you're trying to improve like the world. I think everyone should try to improve the world while you're here. Like, is you giving great running content, how you don't get shin splints, that's probably help a few people.
100%.
You know, but like something like that really moves the needle on possibility. And then the people you'll influence from that, like if you never met with him, you probably didn't even know that would be even a realm or possibility to do. Like, or
that in like the understanding of that being a possibility might have just happened maybe in like 5 years. I met someone else. But this man showing me enough grace because his son followed me, and him then giving me so much, like, dude, he helped me out so much on the run, let alone. And plus, when I was dealing with some injuries after, he brought me to his local PT and hospitals that got me an x-ray, and he covered all of it. Like he literally was like showing me so much grace and love. And then for me to go to the hospital, I'm like, it was so many of these micro moments that I was inspired by this guy. And to that point of like me feeling like I was enlightened to want to do more, not coming from a place of scarcity, like, oh, like I'm using my platform like in a bad way. Not at all. It's just
now you have an opportunity to do more.
Exactly. The goalpost, to your
good
point,
news.
1000%. And I also understand that like for Sean, he wasn't able to do that until he built his own brand from being a musician, from starting his own family and like doing the things that covered his own means to then have enough to support others. Like I fully am aware of that. Like I'm not saying that I'm going to be like, I need to raise 20 million now. It's like, that'd be ludicrous.
Yes.
But the thought in terms of the goalpost being not just more followers, but what does the social impact of my name look like? If people only remember Matt Choi as the runner guy, the guy that helped him with shin splints, that got him into the marathon, then I did a bad job of really leaning into what my potential could be, because I know that there's so much more. It's outside of running, it's out of fitness, it's out of wellness. Like there's something else that I can lean into that I want to do that I might not even see right now sitting with you guys. But I know internally when that opportunity presents itself, no different than when I was a kid working at the PT, working for free. I didn't see it. I didn't know running was going to be the thing, but I just know internally that thing, there's something way bigger than just what I'm doing currently.
100%.
And I think that was the biggest lesson I learned. The biggest takeaway more so, right? Because it's like, it's a lesson there too, but like that was the biggest takeaway leaving Korea. And I left more motivated than ever.
Hell yeah.
I'm motivated after
I know. I'm jacked. I can run through this wall right now. I won't.
Marathon.
This place is very expensive. I'm not going to run through the wall, but
let's get into some Q&As. I know a bunch of people.
Yes, absolutely. Well, before we do Q&A, I want to circle back to something. So, because the next thing he was going to talk about was his Achilles, which was Q&As. But when you and I met, and talking about building your platform, building your brand, and where you're at today, I think when you and I met, you had like, I don't know, somewhere between 20 and 30,000 followers on Instagram. And you touched on earlier how you started off just you and some buddies doing field work, you know, making really shitty content. And then now where you're at today, obviously it's oceans apart from where even when just you and I met.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what that process has looked like, and how'd you do it?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of how I first started. I think it was obviously after you put in enough reps, you get a lot more technical. You get more tactical. Like I'm not now throwing pasta. I'm like playing darts, right? Like I'm not just throwing pasta on the wall. Like I'm actually aiming into like, this is exactly what I want to say or what I want to get across for this video. But I think a lot of it is the networking within Austin. And once again, being a student. like surrounding myself with other runners that knew way more than me and collaborating on content and value add stuff that I knew was going to penetrate my audience in the sense of being something that's going to help them.
Yeah.
And it being completely free. And I think that was always my messaging. And even the messaging I still have today, where it's like, I don't really sell anything. It's like, yo, I'm just sharing what I'm learning along the way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go learn from Trey Hardy. I'm going to learn from my first coach, Jeff, and then my buddy Mark, who then started to teach me some drills and stuff that was very practical to add into my movement variety. But I think it was just this snowball effect of staying consistent over time.
Yeah.
Getting really comfortable with my voice and understanding that, like, hey, it's not perfect. It's okay. Nothing's ever going to be perfect in life, but I'm okay with that. And I'm very comfortable in my own skin of knowing that, like, I've put in so many reps. What it looked like 2 years ago was completely shit. Even when I evaluate what it looked like a year ago.
Right.
Reps, baby.
Even 1 year ago, Tim,
Yeah.
like I'm like, damn, the content that when I had 20,000 followers, I'm like, damn, it's not that great actually. So it's like, it's always just moving that needle of just getting a little bit better every day.
Progress, not perfection.
And while also playing the long game. Like, Tim, if I didn't grow that much within the past time of the 20,000 followers, like, I would have still had this level of consistency and belief in myself that at some point the breakthrough is going to happen.
Yeah, the tipping point's going.
It's going to happen, right? And I think for most people, they don't play the game long enough to even see the tipping point.
Yep.
For me, if people actually understood the first 20 minutes of this conversation of what I was doing at my mom's house, they would understand that this is exactly who I was 4 years ago.
Right.
It's just that now I have a better understanding of the game and how to position myself and how to work with brands and how to negotiate, and all this stuff came with the learning curve. I don't have a manager. Like, I've literally done this stuff by trial by fire.
Yep.
And it goes from getting my hands dirty and doing all this stuff. And it always foreshadows back to, or it comes back to the first job I ever had. I worked in the truck, and then I worked in the plant, and then I did sales, and then I did operations. Then I had to manage people. And now I'm doing all those things in my business.
Yeah.
But it's because I was able to do it that I now, when I hire someone to do the editing or I hire someone to do the management, that I understand and critique them on the feedback that they need to do the job better because I did it.
Yes.
Most people, they're like, oh my God, I'm starting to get some buzz now. I need to hire 3 people, 5 people. I'm like, what makes you have that audacity to think that you've now made it because you've grown some following? Like, you need to get your hands dirty and understand what it takes to be an editor and a producer and a director and a negotiator and an agent before you hire someone. Because if you just hire someone without doing that stuff, how are you going to gauge the quality of the work that they're doing?
Right.
And that was one of the biggest lessons I got from Gary Vee, where it was like, so many people are quick to hire people without them doing the work. You don't have to do the work forever, but if you never do it at least a couple times, you're never going to know how to evaluate someone's effort or their work, right? Because then a YouTuber editor's gonna be like, Tim, I'm going to charge you X amount of money to make 5 videos. And if you've never edited a video, you might be like, is that worth it? Is it not?
Well,
but
bro, I literally did this. In the beginning, I was like, oh, the content I'm making is okay. If I just hire someone, it'll be better and it will do better. Wrong. Wrong.
The only way you learn is doing it.
But I learned that, to your point, by putting in a lot of time and effort on my own. And then also the stuff that I was getting back. And I tried it more than once. You know, I was in my mind, I had my mind made up that if I just find the right person, that it was going to elevate things for me in a way that was really tangible. And it always leads back to me having my pulse on my work and leading from the front and knowing exactly what I want. Now I know how to do it on my own, and I can outsource stuff. And I say, I need it to look like this, and that. And the minute it gets back, I'm like, nope, this, and that, boom. And I know exactly what I'm looking for.
Who knows you better than you?
Period.
Yeah.
And no one's going to care as much.
Yep.
It's your business. It's your thing. The only way, and I this is another Gary thing. It's like, if you want your employees to care as much as you, give them equity.
Yeah.
If not, then you can't expect them to be 10 out of 10 into Tim's business.
Right.
Because they shouldn't be. It's not their thing.
Yeah.
They can be a 7 out of 10. They can be a 6.5. Maybe if you get an 8 out of 10 player, a B player, that's a major win for an organization.
Big time.
But like, to think that someone's going to be as bought in as you are into your thing is ludicrous.
Right. To care as much as you.
They shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's not their thing. Like, I wouldn't, anyone I bring on, the first thing I always tell someone is when they come on the team, I said, the number one thing that matters most is your personal well-being and your health. Prioritize your own health before you do on anything you work with me, because if you're not in a good mental headspace and a physical headspace, it means nothing. You're going to be slacking off. You're not going to actually be wanting to do the work. That's always the first thing I say when anyone I bring on. It's like, prioritize your own health before you work on any stuff with me. Because at the end of the day, that's important shit. I know how important it is for me to operate the way I do. And so much of it is because I prioritize selfishly my own health.
Yeah.
I know what that does for other people. And like, that's the number one thing I always tell people. But to that point of, they shouldn't care as much.
Yeah. Another thing that you've done, and then I want to get into the Q&A, but your ability to build community, and it's something that I noticed immediately meeting you. I mean, I'm not kidding, Matt. I can't tell you how many times I've been driving around Austin and sure as shit, there's Matt Choi running down the fucking side of the street out in front with 20 or 25 other people. And I mean, it was from the time I first saw you at the gym, and it was very shortly after that. I see you everywhere, and I see you with other people. It's incredible. It is. It's very impressive. So, you know, what inspires you to, because it's so easy to just do what you want to do. And most people, what they want to do is chill on the couch, scroll through TikTok. Look, I do it. I love it. That's one of my favorite things to do. You know, it's funny. The older I get, the less inclined I am to seek community and other people. But it's always the thing that makes me feel better and that I actually end up enjoying more. But dude, you're full steam ahead. It's very impressive. Tell me about your process and what inspires you to build community.
I think there's a level of football that comes with that.
Yeah. And
locker room talk and what it's like to like have a team win. And in the solo sport, like running, most people don't think like, oh, like it's just you out there when you run a marathon, right? But in reality, it's not. It's like the coaches, it's the people it's Colin, it's Trey, it's the people that are involved in helping me get to that point, right? Mm-hmm. And I think when it came to the actual community aspect, like I never wanted my following to be the reason why I can't go and just be a normal person. And I think that's why when I go to run clubs or when I go enter into anyone's thing, I just go as if I'm just another person.
Yep.
And I think it's showing up with that level of humility of like, I don't care that I have people that follow me. It's like, I'm just going to show up and support this run crew and go say hi to someone that's in the corner that's by themselves and they're a little awkward and they're like, I don't really want to talk to anyone. And I know what that kind of has felt like before. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just showing up with being human. Like equally, people think that like I'm super extroverted, that I'm like always trying to be around everyone. I'm very an introverted person.
Yeah.
And I think the more people I talk to that put themselves online, like I start to realize that a lot of people that put themselves online are pretty much introverted people because you need time to work on the creative. You need time to be in your own thoughts because when you're always front facing, it gets exhausting. Sometimes I'm more exhausted when I have to host a shakeout run before a marathon than I am after the marathon.
Dude, I have to relate to that.
So exhausting. Like when you have to coach on the floor all day.
It's exhausting.
I get home and I am just a shell because, you know, like to your point, like I operated most of my life thinking I was an extrovert because in the outside world, you know, I'm good with people. I enjoy it. It's a skill set that comes naturally to me. But in actuality, what I've uncovered about myself is that just because I have that skill set and I can connect with people, the time that I feel the best is when I'm not alone, but when I can be completely at ease.
Yeah. It's like a peaceful state.
Yes.
So, I mean, to answer your question in terms of like the community and like where that and like why that happens, I think naturally with running with a solo sport, being extroverted and introverted, I like the duality of running by myself, but then also running with people. There's benefits of both. I experienced it when I was in Korea. Most of the time I was running on my own. There's plenty of solitude time. There's plenty of time to look inward. But equally, the days where I felt the shittiest, having people with me to run exponentially helped me get through it. So I understand the value of both. And I think for most people in this world, I think it's finding a balance in life. Like, and that's with anything, right? Whether it's with food and movement, whether it's with your political beliefs or religious beliefs or even being extroverted, introverted. Like if you're so extroverted and you only get validation from external stuff, when you come home, you're going to really hate yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't like your own self, at some point, like that's going to be a factor in triggering different relationships.
Yep.
Equally, if you're only comfortable alone and you freak out right. when you get into any type of group, that's going to stall you from growth.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's always about finding balance.
Yeah.
And I think whether that's from stoicism, whether that's from my own struggles internally of like what that looks like for me and how I've been able to develop that. I think the aspect of community when it comes to running is because I enjoy both. I still run on my own a lot, and I'll find times to run with people, but I think not needing either and being flexible with both, no different than the type A runner, is how I want to live always. It's like I want to be in the middle. I think so much of the world is like white or black. It's like, yo, the world is gray.
Yeah, it is.
You don't just believe
that's
that
a
one.
whole life lesson.
Period.
Jesus.
How have you, like with this community, and you're, you know, a fairly new runner compared to like most of the OGs out there. How do you feel like either the running community's accepted you or not accepted you?
Yeah, I think there's, and I love this. I love that there was the one thing I sent me was like the triggering thing, or like something that's like that people might not like, that they would want to understand.
Yeah.
I think this is that thing. The runners that accept me are very comfortable in their own skin. And I'm talking about the type A runners, and I have a lot of them. They're elites. They're very fast. They're really good at what they do. They compete for Olympic trials. Like, they're savages.
Yeah.
A few of them I'm really close with, and I get connected with, and it's a really good rapport. Most, those elite runners don't like me. They don't like the content I make. They think that they're like, this guy is benefiting off of the sport that they love, that they've ran their whole life. And I've just entered in 3 years ago and built a legitimate brand and business in it. Yeah. And I'm getting brand deals that they probably wish that they can get.
Right.
I work with Nike.
But
a little bitterness.
You're a doer.
Yeah.
100%. And I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not just a runner. Most of those guys will classify them as, I'm an Olympic trials runner. Well, okay, that's awesome.
Great.
I'm a media company, I'm a creator, I'm a runner, I'm an athlete, I'm a whatever, you fill in the blank, and there's a long list. But I think I have love for all those guys because there's no hate from my end. It's just I appreciate the work ethic that they put in to be able to run at those speeds. But I know that my goal in this life is not just to be fast, period. So it doesn't bother me that those guys don't like me. I think a long time ago when I started making content, I've realized that the world's not about just being liked and adored by everyone, because ultimately that'd be ludicrous to think. It's like chasing perfection.
Yep.
If you think everyone's going to like you in this world, then it's a losing battle.
Yeah, and you're become a slave to everybody else,
period.
Actually.
100%.
Yeah.
So for me, this whole journey has been about a self-reflection of, I want to love myself so that I can give love to others. And that's how I think about community. The most people that follow me are people that aren't elite runners. They're practical runners.
You're super relatable. Like, you're just a regular guy like any of us that just decided to start doing it. And the fact that what sparked me to think of the question was the video of you running by some guy and you're like, what's up? And he flipped you off. And you're like, have a great day. And I was like, dude, why are there people like this out there? Like, you're mad about somebody who's making your sport actually cool and fun. Like, how many people have probably started running because they're like, dude, this guy's pretty relatable to me. I'm going to put on some tennis shoes and start running 1 mile a day. And like, that does more to move the needle for a sport than the trials guy who like, I'm never going to run a 2-hour marathon, like,
it's
or nobody else.
Ludicrous.
Yeah.
It's not
and so it's like, why wouldn't you be all for this guy that's like pushing the brand, pushing your activity to make it more mainstream? I don't know. It's just,
I mean, Zach, I'm
haters everywhere. I get it, but that blew my mind when I saw that. I was like,
dude, it blew my mind in the moment of it happening. And honestly, even in that moment, it's like, you know, my buddy Danny Miranda has really been challenging me to show up with more love and grace, and show up with more love and grace to the people that don't agree with me and people that don't like me. And I've had some instances where people in that space of elites, or not even non-elite, like that guy wasn't elite, like he was just he was another runner. But when people don't agree with me, or they have the balls, and I gotta always give people credit for having the balls to like literally say something.
Most people talk shit behind your back, but the fact that he did that,
right? The fact that he even did that, like, I was in my heart, I'm like, damn, this guy has balls to give me the finger in front of my face.
But you got to think, like, how does
Tim in front of my face?
How does this guy feel about himself that he's willing to like? Somebody like, that's incredible. I've never done that to somebody besides in my car, obviously. But like in person, like right in front of us, it's like, fuck you. Like, that's incredible.
It's incredible. It really is. And same with people that like I had someone at the Chicago Marathon that literally came up to me. He was pissed. He was like, no bikes on the course, Matt. Like, that's all he said. And I'm like, all right, dude. Thanks, buddy. Okay. Like, I was like, okay, like, okay, cool. But I think it's in those moments, like, I actually want to show up even with more love of like, how can I help this person? Like how can I have a conversation to humanize it more, of like, make them maybe even give them a glimpse of who I am to like maybe change their perspective. And I'm not in the goal to change anyone, but like to help give them a different light or give them my POV of like why I do the things I do. And for most people in my position, they'd be like, screw that guy. Yeah. They're not worth your time. But like, I actually would like to understand why some people get so triggered or what's going on internally for them to feel like I need to flick this guy off or I have something to say that's irritating my internal body to go up to this guy.
So much. I feel so much unrest.
I'm
going to give this guy the fucking bird right in his face, dude. Hey, what's up, man? Go fuck yourself. That's crazy.
It's ludicrous. It really is.
Quit filming yourself running and making our sport cooler.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, to your point, Zach, I mean, my goal was that of like the sport of running, like, I didn't even know marathons were 26.2 miles until 3.5 years ago. I had no idea.
It's a long race. Yeah.
It's a long race. I just saw people they run.
Yep.
I had never been to a race ever. So for me, the people that have now entered the sport, and I talk to brands about it all the time, it's a large, staggering amount of people that now are getting into the activity that are our age, that have never classified themselves as a runner, that are just now willing to sign up for a half, sign up for a full, get into a 5K, because for whatever reason, they see so many people online that are doing the thing that aren't runners, that are football players, that are lacrosse players, fill in the blank. And it's giving them inspiration to say like, hey, there's community in this. There's a way to connect with people. There's a way to challenge myself.
Competition.
Get out of my comfort zone. Competition against yourself. You can always set a personal best at every single race that you show up to. And it's giving people a lot of peace internally, and it's giving them something to challenge themselves. So it's a beautiful thing across the board. I'm okay with not being liked by those 1%ers.
Yeah, quit promoting it. This is BS of you, man.
I know.
Be quiet and run.
I should just not say anything. It's like, let's
just shut up and run, man.
Shut up and run. Suffer like the rest of us. All right. So look, I want to, we've got a little time left.
I love it. This has been so fun.
It has been fun. We've got some questions. We threw up some questions on socials. And so Zach, I'll let you go first.
So the other day you put out a video about nutrition during races. So this gel, that gel, whatever time period, grams. Mm-hmm. But what you didn't tell is intra-race Cabo Bobs. Can we hear a little bit about that? I heard it's the new running hack.
The intra Cabo Bob.
Yeah. Jonah told me to ask you about intra Cabo Bobs.
Well, I wouldn't say, what I would say about Cabo Bobs is that it's by far one of my favorite spots in Austin.
I eat there almost every day.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Big shout out Cabo Bobs.
They know what they're doing.
Cabo Bobs, unbelievable.
Sponsor the pod.
Honestly, sponsor the pod. Every guest should be.
I will make every person who comes on the show eat a burrito for sure. Absolutely.
Cabo is one of my favorite spots. I mean, obviously intra, it's not a thing I would eat during, but pre or post, by far a great meal after. I used to be a big Chipotle guy when I lived in Maryland because we didn't have something like Cabo, and like in other cities, like Chipotle is like the Cabo in the sense that
100%.
It's like, and Chipotle here is still like pretty, it's a consistent, but sometimes the service at some spots are just not that great.
Yeah.
You got your good locations, your bad locations.
Yeah,
one by my
some
house
are
now used to be superior, and now it's kind of going to the wayside. And I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, you just go to Cabo.
Yeah.
The thing with Cabo is that sometimes the lines are so ludicrous.
Yes.
It's absurd. It's absurd. I have to order online beforehand. That, by the way, that's how you know it's good. The people,
people wait.
People will stand in line, a big S line all the way backed up to the door. They'll stand in line for 30 minutes on their lunch.
I wouldn't do that at Chipotle.
To get a burrito. No. I would never. If I saw any line at Chipotle, I'm not even, I'm pulling the parking lot, I'm pulling right back out.
Later, dude.
But on Cabo, like I'm at times, I'm more than willing to wait.
Yep.
Because I know how good the service is.
Yeah.
In addition to the food. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be smashing burritos during a marathon, but for an ultra marathon, that would be a different conversation where like during ultras, you eat real food. And I would definitely have Cabo with me if I was running an ultra. I would like, dude, it's prime caloric intake.
Yeah, it is. All right. So a question I got on my social was, what is more difficult, 2 days in football or a marathon? And I'm not talking 1 day of 2 days. 2 days, the whole period of 2 days, or one marathon.
I think 2 days are harder.
Yeah.
Because it's the mental energy, it's the time off in between, and the little bit of recovery that you have to perform. A marathon itself, obviously, depending on who's finishing it, like it's not requiring too much mental energy when it comes to like understanding plays,
Right.
understanding schematics of defense, and like how your route or play might change based on what the defense is giving you. Like there's a lot of cognitive thinking that happens in between that 5-6 seconds.
Right.
And obviously you have to be on for 2 whole practices and you have to execute. And it's competition against not only your own position group, but also someone else that's legitimately trying to stop you from executing this play.
They're trying to hit you.
Yeah. Like a marathon, like there's so many other mental barriers and challenges that you have to endure during it in terms of your own mental.
Right.
And sometimes you can make the argument that actually, is that harder? Maybe it is.
Yeah.
But I think from my experiences of really leaning into doing both, I think two-a-days, there's less people that can go through that than go through a marathon. I think if you look at numbers, like how many people could actually make it through like college football, like there's not as many people, then there's hundreds of thousands of people that run marathons
Dude, I
a year.
can't even imagine if I had to go if someone was like, Tim, 2-a-day start tomorrow, I would cry.
Be a little harder than your mile.
It would be much harder. Yeah.
I agree. So I would say that.
Zach, you got another one for him?
Yeah, so recovery modalities, I feel like this is a hot topic. What are things that you think like are overhyped and then underhyped?
I think underhyped by far is myofascial release. I think that's the very practical thing that every person should do. You don't even need a Theragun. If you actually can understand how to foam roll properly, that one thing can help someone reduce a lot of injuries. Something overhyped, I mean, I love cold plunging and I do it often. I think it's slightly in a moment of being overhyped. I don't think it's something that everyone needs. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars of cold plunging. Even though I do it all the time and almost every day, it's not what is helping me separate what I'm doing.
Right.
It's icing on the cake.
It's icing on the cake. It's something that's nice to have. If you can do it, then awesome. If not, don't stress. Like if you live near a body of water, just jump into the street, like body. Like that's like the most OG way to do it. So I think
Shout out to Barton Springs.
Yeah. Shout out to bodies of water.
any bodies of water. And I think something else that's like that's not that sexy is like it's doing mobility. It's getting into end ranges. It's like it's the unsexy stuff. While if you can do stuff and multitask while you're already in your leisure. Like when I'm at home watching TV at night, like I just lay on the floor and I'm rolling out.
Yeah.
I lay on the floor and I sit in the world's greatest stretch, or I sit in a couch stretch. Like it's finding the intricacies of your day where you can multitask. If you're already leisurely sitting there, the worst thing you can do is just sit.
Yeah.
You're already doing that in the car, at your job probably. Like find ways to get out of this shitty posture that I'm sitting in right now.
Yeah.
I think that's the best thing you can do. And it's free, it's unsexy, and everyone can do it.
I love that.
I'm with it. One last thing. You got to sell Tim Riley on the marathon in 30 seconds. Next year, Austin 2025 marathon. What do you got for him?
Tim, you already beat your own goal and your own internal doubt today. The words of I am not a runner will quickly be out of your dictionary because you'll be able to say I'm a marathoner. And what that's going to do, not only in your life, in your business, in your relationships, it's going to scale so much further than just the running. And it's been proven not even just in my life, but in so many other people's. And it's why you will complete the marathon next year on February 17th of 2025.
Wow. That was almost 30 seconds.
Wow.
God, that was very, very good. That was inspiring. That was awesome. Yeah. Very well done. That was excellent. We're going to have to make everyone do that.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Yeah. And that, this is a professional podcast. And so we sent something over to Matt Choi, just a little heads up on some of the topics we might cover. That was not added. That was completely improv by Matt Choi. That was impressive. Very well done. All right. So, another thing. So you kind of, we had our rant and rave. You touched on it, right? The maybe the less awesome aspect of some of the things that you see in running community. But let's rave for a little while. What are the things that you see that you love that you want to see even more of
In the running space?
Yes.
I think it's what's currently happening now. It's like it's the diversity of people that are entering it, and I'm seeing it from clubs. I'm seeing it from people that are reaching out that I personally get to meet that at the Austin Marathon told me this was the first race I ever signed up for. And they didn't care that it was a hard course. They said, I wanted to feel the energy of the city. It's the multitude of run clubs that are now getting people that don't look like runners into the thing. And I think that's the beautiful thing that's happening right now. And it's why brands are loving it. I mean, brands are soaking it up when it comes to it gives them diversification of users, of products, of consumers. And I think that's something that will continue to scale. In addition to, like, there's something special about some of these races where you go and there's people that are strangers that are cheering you on like their family. And I think that's something that just brings people together. It brings not only just the running community, but it brings people that don't run into it, that motivate them to go run. Yeah. Like, I was with my friend Sally McRae. She's an ultra runner, and she literally, she's a beast. And we were at a run on Thursday, and she said, like, guys, like, if you really want to go lean into something, if you think that you can't do an ultra marathon or you can't run a marathon, just go out and go watch a race. And don't watch the elite group that are in the front. Mm-hmm. Wait another hour until that same spot that you're at, that the slowest person is still running, and you'll see that there's different shapes and sizes and people that have no limbs, that have no legs, that are finding a way.
Yeah.
That will continue to make you realize that anything is possible. And I think that aspect of running is a beautiful thing. And I hope that that continues to grow, and that there's more people at the back of the races that shock people of, they're doing this?
Yeah.
It gives me liberation to do it as well.
That's awesome.
So you're the content king. What is a beginner who's trying to be the next content king, I guess? What would you advise, like 3 things they should do, besides obviously pick up the camera and go? What do you think are the 3 best things to put them in a position to be successful in this medium?
I think the first thing is to consume the people that they look up to and how they're creating, and look at, like, how are they cutting up videos, or like, how are they framing the videos itself? I think that's one way of consumption of, okay, let me go see what the market is already providing. Mm-hmm. From there, you should then get comfortable in your own voice. And part of that is the reps, but it's practice. It's taking enough time to say, all right, like, I'm not good at this. I need to evaluate what's the best medium for me to communicate. And for some people, as you go through this process, you might realize that you're not good on video. Mm-hmm. So don't force yourself to make video content. Maybe you need to sit down and write a blog, or make an email list where you can write, because you're a much more prolific writer instead of being comfortable in front of the camera. Maybe you need to do a podcast where there's no video because you don't like seeing yourself on the camera, but you're willing to talk. And you're willing to have a conversation. Like, so many people have the convos every single day that could be worthy of a pod, but they don't think it is, or they're not willing to actually hit the record button.
Right.
So I think the process of doing will then get you to the point of, what's my medium? I didn't realize that video was going to be the thing until I tested it. So I think that's something. And I think the third thing is utilize resources around you to help make your job easier. Now with AI, with Google, with other creators that are ahead of you that have resources or programs or courses that can get you maybe a little bit ahead, that's a great way to build a foundation where you don't have to make the same mistakes. Why do people read books? To maybe hopefully learn something and make less mistakes than the person that wrote it. So if you have someone that you look up to already, and they have a free downloadable or a guide that you can follow to get you a couple steps ahead, I think is a great thing. And I think an extra thing is just, like, understanding that no one can be a better version of yourself. Don't be like me. Don't be a content. Like, I think it's figuring out what your thing is. Be yourself, because no one else can replicate that. And over time, you will build enough confidence to turn that into something.
All right, we got one more for you. Unsolicited, solicited advice. So this can be about anything.
Okay.
All right. It doesn't necessarily have to be running or anything about the conversation today. But if you were going to give someone some advice, what would it be?
It's by far the thing I learned from my first job. Treat the janitor how you would the CEO. And if you actually understand that framework of not treating someone different because they have less or that they have more than you, but treating everyone with the same level of respect that you would want, regardless of what industry you're in or where you are in life, I believe that that framework is what has gotten me to where I am today. Mm-hmm. It's having a level of humility to show love to the person that followed me for 3 years, and when they're right in front of me, as if they're Courtney DeWalter, as if they're Eliud Kipchoge. And having that level of humility, I believe, can get people into rooms, into situations that they can't fathom. And part of that is just that people want to be respected no matter who you are, whether you're homeless or you have a multi-billion-dollar company. And I think showing people that same level of respect is a core value and belief that I have that has gotten me to where I am today. And it's something that I will continue to have until I'm 6 feet under.
That's huge. Powerful.
I like it.
Zach, you got anything else for him?
You want to tell everyone where they can find you, consume your content, all
Sure.
that fun stuff?
Yeah. I mean, you guys can get me on Instagram and on TikTok, Matt Choi _6. I'm also on YouTube, just Matthew Choi. And it's a little bit longer form content and things like that, but that's probably the best way to find me.
And then, I think we need to get a big power clean hangout lift together soon. Get that on the books.
And some jumping.
And then Cabo Bobs.
And Cabo Bobs, yes.
Without a doubt. If it doesn't end with Cabo, I'll be upset.
Oh, perfect.
Matt, thanks for coming on.
Dude, it's
been a pleasure to have you, and I feel fully recovered from my mile. What an experience.
I appreciate you guys. It was really fun.
Till next time.